Action.
This is Ajahn Tim's Mindful Moments. Tim here. Thought I'd introduce you to an illustration from my book. It didn't turn up as a colour plate in the final edition, but it was a lovely piece of work done by my illustrator friend Victor Langcliffe, and I thought I'd amuse you with it. It represents someone, a being or person with who's walled in by their mind, their thinking mind is like imprisoned them, and it's like a head's walled in with bricks and blocks, and through that he sees out, but he sees the world through rose-tinted spectacles. In other words, he sees what he wants to see through that. Thought you might be amused.
So, how have we been doing in the lockdown? For me, it's been a bit like a retreat. A lot of time for introspection, being at home, but quite enjoyed it actually. Many aspects of it have been very nice. But I'm also aware of a number of friends, neighbours around here who are going nuts. They're so used to being very busy and things going, travelling, doing things. And I guess most of us spend more time just aware of our own mind, our own thinking. And for many, doing nothing is a real challenge. And certainly one of my mother's friends actually, who's so terribly restless, was driving himself crazy. And I was advising him, I said, well, you need to practice doing nothing. You need to spend a bit more time deliberately doing nothing. And he's seen this as a terrible thing, in Western culture. Being busy is good. But when being busy is what drives us, being busy is always about having to be achieving, doing something. We sort of lapse away from the refined sense of a human being into the kind of mad headless chicken of the human doing always in that place. And for some of them, certainly for my friend, he found it very difficult at first just to be still and just watch, just be quiet. And there was always a time in life when that's could actually be enforced on us. Just, you've got no choice. Maybe you're poorly or something happens and you have to be quiet for a while, stop what we're doing. And for someone like my friend who was just driven, always driven, he was finding it very, very difficult. But in time he said to me, yeah, he could see the point. And it's a challenge, for many. It's much harder being still. And in some Buddhist teachers I've heard, they talk about it's kind of a active laziness. It's very easy just to distract, find diversions. But then what does that do to our quality of mind? There's no stopping, and there's a restlessness and an anxiety that goes with it. So we practice it, we call it meditation, we can call it just mindfulness of being still, observing. But when we stop and look at the mind, sometimes it's, especially thinking, certainly one of the startling things I found when I started meditating was the fact that it just wouldn't stop. I had this idea that when meditating, just stop thinking. But if you tried it, notice that you get certain things, it'll just go round and round. It's like an old record that keeps playing. And you want to put it down. You've been there. You've been through the thought. You've been through all the permutations, and it still just keeps cranking on. you know, you must know that. And so I started, and there's an insight out of that that says, well, maybe, you know, how can this thinking be really me and mine if I can't shut it up? It won't stop. And then this can be an opening for us, real, you know. You can sit there and notice this little commentary. I have a little voiceover, I call it the demented commentator. He just keeps, you know, telling me what I can see anyway. Or you have something that just keeps running, and I'm aware of that, it's sort of playing around, but I can turn it into a sound like I leave it in another room, playing. And I can just watch the wind in the leaves in the trees, or listen to the bird song, and just press a pause button and say, okay, for a little while now I'm the human being, just being here, being with what. Imagine how it is sometimes, perhaps when you've been on holiday, you arrive at a nice holiday resort and you walk out into the gardens and you think, wow, you know, such a nice place, admiring the garden. But at the same time, in lockdown at home, when you walk into the garden, I'm suggesting more often than not, what do we see? The weeding that needs doing, the grass needs cutting, the whole garden chair needs fixing, and so on. And so the eye is always looking at, you know, what needs to be done. But what happens when we walk into the garden with an open, you know, without all that going on, you know, as if we've never been there before, with an open mind, without the commentary, you think, well, yeah, this is a pretty good spot. Just enjoy it. Just be there. I could suggest another experiment when walking out into the garden or just moving in the house. Stop and look around for a moment. And imagine that you're just about to leave there for the last time. The last time you're going to be in this place. You're taking leave, you're just about to leave, and you're not coming back. Just take it like that. And see how you feel about it. The familiar. See how our attitudes and thinking can change the impressions that we make, habitual impressions that we have. Just a simple shift. These are things we can explore and experiment with. After I've been living in the monastic community for a couple of years, I went to visit a friend in London. There's a little business and work colleagues. Hadn't seen them for a few years. Walked into their studios and they were very pleased to see me, a nice warm welcome. And as usual, the boss would wander up to me and always have the same welcome, which was, hello, are you busy then? And I paused for a moment and I said, well, no, I don't need busy at the moment. And he kind of paused, thought about it for a little bit, looked at me, and then he seemed thinking, oh, yeah. And for a moment I thought maybe he's beginning to understand why I chose to make the lifestyle I did. Bye for now.
Okay, cut.